Okay, hi everyone, welcome back to the coding chamber. In this video we're going to actually enter into the Python environment. We're going to start doing some programming, and I'm just going to show you what those concepts I just taught you actually look like when you type them down. And perhaps I didn't get them fully, which is perfectly possible. I did not explain them in great depth. So obviously you need the Python environment. What you're going to go to do is you're going to type up your little thing, python.org, click enter. You're going to get this page, go to downloads, and download 3.5, or Python 3. There's differences between Python 3 and 2, obviously. I recommend 3. It is a more beginner-friendly programming language. It is a lot of people recommend it. It's more recommended. You can, if you want to read more about it, you can read this. I'm not using 3.5. I'm using 3.43. I don't think there's significant differences though, and I don't want to go through all the trouble of actually downloading a whole new edition for, slight changes. Perhaps more than slight. So after you have that, you're going to get a little icon. You're going to get a couple icons, but the one you care about is the idle shell, the Python shell, or the idle. You're going to double click on that. You're going to get a page that looks like this. In this page, you can actually type Python code. It's a I'm trying to explain it. It doesn't allow you multi-line, and so you can type in lines of code, and it will automatically compile them. This is not the place to write big programs. In fact, I don't think I'll ever use this. And here's a very basic statement that's very useful in Python. It's the print statement. And you can say define variables in here, print the variables, define functions that perhaps take parameters, right? You can do a lot of stuff, and then you can say call the function with X in it, and that's gonna break. Anyway, so you can do stuff like that, right? And if I actually wanted to make that function work, I could do something like print stuff, and this is your first really basic program. Alright, look, magic. Then I can like reassign and call like function X. Really cool stuff. Now after you get bored, you might want to just do a lot of stuff in there. You don't know actually how to type a lot of the syntax though. So that's what I'm going to teach you. So you're going to go File, New File. You're going to get a window that looks like this. This is pretty much a glorified notepad. It's not really what I would describe as an IDE. IDEs are they have a bit more fluff, such as, again, I can use the Java editor, such as something like this. Which you can see it has a lot of tools, as like this. It's a highly useful IDE, and I believe there's stuff for Python. I just use this though, because I don't do a lot of Python programming. And I'm actually not that good at Python. But the reason I'm teaching it is because it is syntactically light. It's really easy to learn. There's a lot of good stuff for Python. I probably should teach myself more about it. But for just teaching basic concepts like functions, objects, classes, things like that, which you probably don't know most of what I just said, it's a very good language. So first thing we're going to do, let's make a really simple program. This is just a program. This is what you do when you see a new environment. You make the hello world program. Right, so it's just a very simple statement. It varies in different languages. It's more complicated in like non-scripting languages like Java and C#. It's simpler in things like Python. So after you're done with that, you're going to hit the F5 button. You click OK. It must be saved. I'm just going to go save it in my you might want to make I would recommend making a folder where all your Python programs are. Just for that heck of it. So you see it restarts the thing, and it will print out your program. So now you have made your first Python program. But we know other concepts. Let's make something that is actually complicated a bit. Let's use all the concepts we have here, right? So we have if-else statements, we have variables, and we have functions, right? So let's define a variable. Let's call this the path, right? This is a path variable, and we're going to choose path 2. And there's a way to get user input. I'll talk about that in the next video when we may make very simple. Choose your own adventure. And if you feel this tutorial is going too quickly for you, please ask me questions in the comments. That is what the comments are for. They're for asking questions, or just being not a nice person, but just ask me questions there. So we're gonna have a path. Let's define a function, and it's always good to just make sure our program's running. So let's just tell the user our program is running. So it's going to say the program is running, right? And so I didn't really explain this statement. I don't believe. I feel it's self-explanatory. That's the great thing about Python. It prints out something. It prints out something to the console or to the shell, right? So then we're going to define this as run. All right. So this is the main run statement. We're gonna have to. I'll get into this. Let's take path. Let's just go take out a choice as a parameter. So you may be really confused right now. We'll go back and explain it. Don't worry. So I'm gonna say if choice equal to what? That's what are we doing here? There's a lot of weird syntax that you're getting into. Don't worry, I will explain it. And that's just print the second path was chosen. Right, so this is a very simple thing. And then this is else, the second path was not chosen. Right, and now we're done. Okay, so let's save our program. File, save as. Go here. Let's just call this testy test. Right, so we're calling this testy. We press F5. We run it, but it's supposed to print out something. You may already know what this is. We did not actually call the variable run. Right, so we need to do that. We need to call run, and we need to give it a parameter. We need to give it path. So now it's going to work perfectly if I typed my code right. Okay, the program is running. The second path was chosen. Okay, so you're saying, oh, that's great, dandy, you did that. How did you do it? So I'm going to run through every line of code. Let's just start with this one. Self-explanatory. Or at least it prints out to this what's happening, right? It prints out the program is running. The second line, or the third line rather, says, okay, I'm making this variable. It says I'm making this variable and equals 2. It's just saying, oh, x in this mathematical equation equals 2. Okay? So now we are defining a variable, defining a function. It's just like defining a variable, except that it's not. Except instead of giving it some data type like an integer or a string, numbers and words, you're giving it something like a piece of code. And so it has that piece of code, and then you can go back and use it, call it, just like you could, reference path. You can reference the function run, and when you do it, it's gonna just go to run and run that code. And that's a much better explanation than I gave in my function video. So what do we get? We get this first line and says, okay, so if choice equal to, well, that's weird. Why is that? So this equal is simply, there's a lot of literature on this. at least on Stack Overflow. And if you don't know what that is, just search up Stack Overflow. But what that's confirming is, see up here we have a single equal sign. That's so because the programming language is stupid. Computers are stupid. I'm sorry, computer, but they're not smart. So what that pretty much does is it says, okay, does choice equal to? It's not assigning to choice. A single equal sign means, okay, take this value and shove it in this variable. What that does, it says, okay, take the value of choice and compare it to 2. And if they equal, okay, and that's what that's doing. But then it says, okay, if they're equal, do this thing. If they're not equal, do this thing. And you may noticing a couple things. Python does not have line enders such as Java, where you may notice a semicolon. This is not the case in Python. To simplify syntax, they've not implemented this, and semicolons are very common and they're very annoying, but they're a way to end lines. But in Python, we've instead used white space. So you may notice that we have this amount of white space between this wall and here. What that does is it tells the compiler that this code is supposed to be in this function. If that was not the case, it would be really confused because you're making a function and then you're giving it nothing, and it would scream at us. And I'll demonstrate that in a second after I finish explaining code. Or perhaps I'll explain it in another video because it appears I am running out of time. Anyway, and then it says, okay, if it's not, then print this, and you don't need these, getting off track, you don't need these little parentheses, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. They're just useful grouping code. It will run just the same if you do it, but do it. It's just makes it look clean. And then you need this colon. You may notice that on a bunch. It pretty much signifies, okay, after this colon, this stuff is in there. This piece of code is assigned to this. So, if you have any questions, please ask me. Before we're going to leave, I'm going to demonstrate the fact that white space does in fact matter. And this is going to probably scream at me. Right, so this would be perfectly acceptable in some other language. I mean, besides the syntax, but you know, like they don't really care about white space, and so we're gonna press F5, and it's just expected indented block, and you're very confused. What? Well, that's because they expected something like that. So, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, comments, etiquette, please ask them in the comments. I know this video is perhaps a bit too quick. In the next video, we're going to be talking about how to, get input from the user, from the end user, or simply the person that is using the computer and running your amazing, mind-blowing program. If you liked it, subscribe, ask questions. This tutorial is going a bit faster than I anticipated, but I hope you're keeping up at a good pace. So, thank you. Goodbye.